Banasri Hazra. Now I am going to tell you the journey of my life, starting from when I was born. That's what I understand that I have to narrate it in a nutshell, because the age I have reached is not very small, so the story is also quite long. Anyway, please, I hope you will have the patience to listen to that, because it's a bit different from how other girls in my time were also growing up, and I had a slightly different background because of the service of my father. Um, because when I was born in Calcutta or Kolkata, very much in the heart of the city. But my father was at that time posted in North Bengal Forest, because he was in Indian Forest Service, just passed out from Dehradun college. Later on, he joined there as a lecturer also. So I had a little bit of my very small childhood in Dehradun also. So that started my journey from Kolkata. I didn't have much consciousness about the time I was born, but after that I remember only forests and very remote places where I could hardly see people except our caregivers, like the driver, the mali, the cook, and all those stuff. And at that small age, I could remember even my father going out with gun in the forest, and that was very exciting, no doubt, because when he came back, the orderly came to take out the leeches out of his stocking, and these are the experiences which are very unique. For I'm sure no other Calcutta girl will tell you about such story. That's how I could see a living being, the leeches sticking to my father's stocking. There's a special kind of wrapping stockings. If those are not, I am sure these are not in vogue nowadays, because they have better things to wear. So that huge stocking were round and round like a bandage, it was put in, and then on that the leech is stuck into several places, and the orderly had a long stick with a potli of salt, and it was touched with each leech, and it fell down like curly leeches. So these are all small experiences with wildlife. That's the smallest one I started with. Then there were the bigger ones, and the pets we had automatically. Naturally, they came into house, and later I will tell about my the special pet, which, of course, after when I was about 20, nearer to 20 years, but that's later. So this is how I started my childhood. But then what happened after 3.5 years, my next sister was born, and so I was, and then my mother, then another sister came close by in within another 2 years. So my mother was quite hassled with three young girls, and in those days it was really, I don't know why it happened to my mother. Of course, she had her own background, but she was quite highly educated in those days. In 19 years, she was graduated in philosophy honors in a very good college, Ashutosh College in Calcutta. So she was very brilliant in her own studies, and she was a very good sports person also. So 19 years she got married, but before that, she was a BA honors in philosophy, and she was quite fluent in English and Bengali, of course. And then she was quite talkative. I inherited a little bit of talkativeness from her, because my father was very somber and a very gentle person. Now, to tell about my father a little bit more, actually, he was a star student and came from a very simple background in village in 24 Parganas. That's called Diamond Harbor. That's very much in news nowadays for many other reasons. But Diamond Harbor is a very big community over there on the river Ganges. So there, actually, our paternal property is still there, and my paternal uncles still they reside there in our old property. Some part of it is still there. So my father had studied from there, the village school, and he topped the matriculation with a high record marks, because it's every year there is a topper. But my father's topping the list was very special because it was a record marks. And after Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, he was the one. His number was one who everybody was mentioning. And then it was the Bengal, Bihar, Odisha together Bengal. You know that huge province it was after partition. So he, no, at that time it was before partition, of course. It was in 1938 somewhere. So it was his this distinction of getting the huge gold medal in that matriculation exam, which really distinguishes him from many other families. And my father was five brothers, and everybody were very much in that line, except one brother was a different kind. He was a multifarious talent, but others were very studious and all were very brilliant. My next uncle also stood third in the matriculation. So this legacy of my parents, it was a burden as well as what should I say? That was a background on which we were placed. Every year we used to visit our grandmother in where other uncles also stayed. Grandfather was also there, but he died quite early in the 60s. So grandmother was a big influence. She would take out all the medals of my father and uncles, and their series of medals were shown to us. We are asked to sit and view all the medals, which exam and all. And from the age of say 6 years or 7 years, we have been used to seeing those medals one after another, and that was our aspiration from the childhood. So we had this burden of keeping the name of the family. So I would say these are positive negative both effects. It was quite a stress on a little one that I have to stand first in the class. There is no other way that I can study. So it was all study, of course, but playing was there naturally, which came with my growing up. Like as you said that we have to narrate how we played also. That's very distinct from what the girls nowadays do. That I was actually as I said, my two sisters were born one after another within 5 and 6 years of my age, and so and my brother, I have a brother who is 10 years total, 10 years and 3 months junior to me. So it was he was almost like my child. I mean, he grew up in my hand because I was holding the brother, and he was the darling of the family, of course. And after three sisters, now mother, till my brother was born, she was under a huge mental pressure. What I will do with these girls? And she never thought that we will stand up, because there that was the time. I can't blame her fully, because that was the normal one middle class family, and with a upper middle class aspiration, like the daughter of a big officer. And then getting married was one of the big achievements in life. That was the only target. Unfortunately, that was the target of my mother. I don't know why, because she had this pressure of marrying of three girls, and it was a big stigma on the society that girls will remain unmarried. That's not to be done. And it is such a difference. Nowadays, children will not understand what mental pressure that was on my mother. And but she was one of four sisters. She lost one small brother in early age. But my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was so she was quite advanced in her time, that she educated all four sisters. My mothers all were graduated before marriage, and that was not a mean achievement. And all of them were married off very well educated, and all were. One was, of course, in my had my the eldest uncle, maternal, that Mosaji was in army. He was actually the medical in the AMC, and my brothers also were in the army. So those were the tradition, and my others Mossas were also very well placed in government service. So my mother hoped that I will also marry off my daughters like that. And so I was in this quagmire of to study well. There was no compromise of my study, of course. My mother was also always after me that you have to keep the family name. You are the eldest. So every time I was bringing my this annual report, she will never praise me if I stand first. But if it is anything less than that, even a quarterly exam, I will have a scolding. There was no praise for getting off because it is natural that he will be first. So that is how the pressure of my childhood to get. So in fact, if I had not had that pressure on me, I'm sure I won't have been this kind of academic background. I would have surely diverted into other interests because I was very much keen to in the family. Like I had actually my mother put me into my grandmother maternal house because she had two children following, and then in the North Bengal it was very hard with the little children in Kashi and Kalimpong. She was roaming around that area. So she put me in Calcutta. So I had my Calcutta journey prolonged in the convent of the Carmel convent. So I got admitted in Carmel convent in class one, and there I was put in charge of my youngest Mossy, my maternal auntie. So she was the one. She was about 15 years or so elder to me, but she was very very attached to me, and she was a very good singer, so I had some singing lessons with her. And also she was a play person with me, and we had putul khela, the doll playing with dolls, which that's what I was saying, that nowadays girls will not really play like that what we did. We had total household with that doll's house, and getting dolls married with another doll in another family. So Putulir BA was a big culture in Calcutta that time. Another family, and we insisted that, oh, that girl will go to the other family. She will take, he will take, that other friend will take away my doll. And so we had that realization of getting married in that early age. Through that, maybe it was an induction of getting married into. And so we had small items to that little size of luchi and little size of everything. Food was also in a doll size, and all the trousseau with that doll will go. So we had small toothpaste, small items. Now we get in travel, but those times these were very rare. I don't know where from my auntie got all those things, and she prepared the trousseau for my daughter. And then when that I had to give away my doll, I was in tears. And we had ornaments made with our own hand, dresses made with our own hand. So we had a kind of this family, making the family even at that old small age. And we had different kinds of paper dolls with that different changing the dresses with that paper cutting. So we had all sorts of playthings with the the making a girl happy with the family. So this way we were brought up. But again, then singing, dancing, all these lessons, my mother insisted on making us very versatile in everything, though I could not continue some of them, most of them, later on, because I had a throat problem when I was in my seventh standard, and it was very serious. So I had to stop my classical singing, and so it stopped there. But even then, I had my background, so it helps in the later. So this is my very childhood, and then I got. Actually, I didn't study in the middle two classes, like class 2 and 3 were just like we were going around places. My father went off to abroad once for 1 year. That was another influence I had in my childhood. When in 19, it was way back in 1955 or so. That time he was posted for 1 year in Finland and Lapland. Those forests, and he traveled all the way back. When he came back and filmed all over Europe, and we had been seeing those Lapland and Finland and Aurora Borealis and all sorts of the Scandinavian pictures and wildlife over there. The these reindeers, how they are actually, those were the trainings which my father was having in the forest in that Arctic zone. So he was standing in the Arctic circle with the big hat on and all those things, and we were really looking forward to kind of seeing all those places. So this was another urge in me, that well, I have to see, but I didn't know how to do that except getting married to somebody who will take me there. That was the I mean the hidden one aspiration inside. But never did I think about being myself and doing those things, which nowadays girls will definitely think I will go and I never imagined that I'll be doing all those things on my own merit someday, when I'll be traveling all alone on my own grant, not at all supported by my husband, but of course he was in the background, and that's the story which will come very soon. So after that, I was anyway, I had to touch to my schooling, that I had to top every class, and then I had to top the higher secondary which we had in 11th standard. So I topped. I had the aspiration of getting into the first 10, but I just slipped by 2 marks and got into the 11th position, but that was the topper among girls. So that distinction I achieved in my that age. Though I was very very sad that I couldn't go into 10. So every my achievement had a sadness behind it, not fully achieved kind of feeling. So because that year one boy got the maximum, that number was so huge, his number. Uh, of course, I have. He is a friend now, and I can see through that how brilliant he was. That's why he got so much number that we all fell behind by a few marks, and so I was 11. Anyway, so I at that stage the question of choosing my subject. Now, thing is, I had to come into chemistry for several reasons. The first thing was that we were in different schools in districts in West Bengal. So after reading in 5 or 6 schools, I came to Calcutta in my ninth standard. And when I got admitted into a government school, and of course, government schools were only there to receive us at any time of the year when our fathers got transferred, and so it was not hard for us to go to a new school. Then when I started in ninth standard in Calcutta, I was really ostracized by the other girls because I was a stranger coming from kind of village and jungle or something. I was not civilized in those city girl kind of activity. I had never been into it, almost never seen a cinema. Except one Sharat Chandra movie, maybe my mother took to, and I had seen only Sampurna Ramayana, and that was a joke when I got married. When my into a family who stayed in Delhi, my sister-in-law was making jokes about me. That look at my Bodhi, who has seen only two films, one in Bengali, one or two in Bengali, very witty stories about Bengali sentiment, nothing exciting, and only one Hindi movie called Sampurna Ramayana. So that was my background, that we had never been diverting into any other sort of, mind game other than study. So this kind of studiousness had to be rewarded some way. So I got a reward that I could achieve the National Science Talent Search awardee. In India, still there is this system in a different way, but it was like a all India contest from the school. When we reached the 11th standard, we were supposed to take that exam, and after the theoretical, we are put into an interview, and then we had to make a project also. So anyway, I got selected in that, which was about 350 children from all over India, and it's a huge scholarship. That was a very prized scholarship. In those days, when our this school fee was only 6 rupees. Can you imagine 6 rupees in government school? And the best of education in government school, which I really really miss these times when I see those schools falling away. That school had only 6 rupees of teaching fee, and then those times I got when I got the award for BSc, MSc, and up to going to PhD also was included. But that's a different story. What I did, and then in BSc we got 100 rupees per month those times when our college fee was 16 rupees in Presidency College. So that was this prize scholarship, which had a condition that we have to achieve first class in every stage of going to MSc. Then only we get the MSc scholarship. That was 250 per month. So this huge money those days all accumulated because it came in phases. Once in 3 months or 4 months, the whole money came from Delhi, from NCERT, National Council of Educational Research and Training, who was giving this award to the children. So this also created a pressure on start going for a study in basic science. That was physics, chemistry, and mathematics. These three were the basic sciences. So in that, there was my for me the only option was to choose chemistry, because I hated numbers and mathematics, and I had to do it for going into the top. So I had to somehow do the mathematics, not to my satisfaction, but I could anyway. So mathematics was not my favorite, but I was very much keen to study literature, which I could not be done because I had to choose science because of this award and all that. So I chose chemistry, and another reason was that my father's graduation subject was also chemistry. That's all. And then chemistry, of course, was I liked it very much in the practical, as I said. But then what happened? Going into the research, of course I continued in my own circle. That I was in Science College, Calcutta, where Professor Arshima Chatterjee, the doyen of phytochemistry, she was a scientist of plants, chemist of plants, I would say, and she took out very important chemicals from plants, and that is the study we did in MSc in the phytochemistry class with Professor Arshima Chatterjee. So that was one favorite topic which I had, because it mingled with my life of forestry and all that. And I forgot to tell you that my name is one outcome of that my father's forest life. That I am called Banasri, means the beauty of the forest. Though I'm not a beauty at all, and nobody considered me like that. But it is like wealth of forest, you may say. So this is that Banasri, and my next sister is called Deepashri because she was very fair. So my father called her Deepashri, and my little sister was a slight darker, so she was called Shyamasri. So these were the three names which my parents chose for three girls. And my there was a tradition that the brother coming after three sisters has to be named with a S. So and he was boon of Shivaji, maybe my mother. She was not very religious for the sake, but for the sake of a son, she maybe vowed to the Mahadev Shiva, and so he was named Somnath. She was named with the name of S. So that is our my four siblings. Now a little bit about my siblings is that my next sibling, my sister, the next sister, chose botany as her topic, and that was one small influence on me, because I liked her subject, and I would deal little bit with her copy books, and she had a very bad handwriting, so she would ask me to name her plants in that workbook. They had to collect the leaves and put into the press, and then stick it into their workbooks. I like that business very much, to preserve the plants. In small ages we did everybody blotting papers. We took two blotting papers, and then in that you put the leaf and flower and everything. So we used to put it under huge books to press it, and so that's how we could get the compressed leaf herbarium. We used to call it the herbarium sheets. So each herbarium, it was her practical to prepare the herbarium sheets and to write the names of the plants. So that Latin nomenclature was very interesting to me, and I got into that habit of reading botany through her. And I also was very much interested in biology because of my this background life in the forest, and we had small pets in the house, like from the jungle, somebody would collect and send to our home, like little brown rabbits and then parrots and then monkey. All these things we were having around our compound and in small cages. My father would order, and then there will be these pets around us, all free pets, and we never bought them. Not a pet dog or something like that, but they were in their more or less natural surrounding in that, and we used to feed them and play with them. So that was one, and we used to have all sorts of animals around us in the jungle atmosphere also. And actually, another big thing happened in my life when I graduated in presidency, from presidency college in 1970. It was 1970 in Calcutta, and if anybody can, in those times, people will recall, it was the tumultuous time in Calcutta with the Naxalite Andolan going on in a full scale, and that was the bombings and all going on in College Street, where my college was situated. It was a very tough time, and in fact, our result got delayed by 1 year. We lost 1 year in our after our graduation, when my class batchmates of boys who were also national science talent search awardees, we were 12 awardees in one batch in our class. So it was a very brilliant batch, and all the male students, we were four girl students and maybe eight boy students in that batch, who were all NSTS awardees. All of them went outside Calcutta to study MSc ahead of us, because we were not, the girls were not supposed to go to IIT Delhi or Kanpur IIT, and then Pune, all these places they went away to study chemistry in their own way in MSc. So we lost our friends in after MSc, BSc. So that was how we started, and then doing research was like, I started in that. Oshima Chatterjee was our inspiration in studying this. This mingled with my this interest in plants. And yes, the main event which happened after I passed, I was in the final year of my school, that my father got had to change his job because of to stay in Calcutta, because we both children were studying in high classes, and he could not be transferred to other states because it was the Indian Forest Service. So he was under huge pressure to go to other states as the chief of staff over there. But he sacrificed his promotion and transfer, and to resist it, he had to accept a smaller job. But it was very interesting for us. It was the director of Alipur Zoological Garden. And can you imagine the whole zoological garden, living inside that garden? And I was really mad with happiness that I had so many pets around, and we were right inside. And that bungalow has been demolished now, but we were having swings in that garden. And when we were swinging, the people were thronging outside our this campus and going around the barrier, and then standing to see us. Oh, look here, humans are also in this zoo. And we were like, we ran away to avoid their gazes, and we were playing in that, and we had ducks in the pond, in the common pond, which were coming into our residence to stay and laying eggs and all that. So I had a very much interaction with wildlife, and with this I had a small tiger also, that leopard cub, staying with us when it was abandoned by its mother in North Bengal, and it had to be brought. And we insisted, Daddy, we want this in our home, and we were having it till they permitted us to keep it till it was having boiled meat. It was with us, but when it 3 months, after 3 months, it had to be given away to the zoo, and we had the pleasure of rearing a tiger cat also. So all this I am telling because this attachment with animals made me a natural biologist. And when I had to give up my research at that just after MSc. 3 months I was tutored in Ashima Chatterjee's lab with the phytochemistry. But one complaint I had with that study was it was purely with the chemistry. They had no utilization of the chemistry into its application. So that was where I broke my study and went off happily married to Delhi and abandoned my scholarship. And it was a really really hard decision, but I had nothing else to do, because in Delhi I was married off to a family who really my husband was from IIT Kharagpur, and he was very brilliant student, and he insisted that I should also continue my study. Well, my in-laws were not very excited about it, but they said, okay, you can go. But there in Delhi, there was no natural product chemistry school nearby, and it was in IIT Delhi where we stayed nearby. But then they had only formal chemistry, like which is hardcore chemistry. It has nothing to do with plant chemistry. So I said no. I will not because I knew that it will take 5 6 years at least to do a PhD, and I had no aspiration for doing PhD 5 6 years in a young age of 22 23. I'll be 7 years stuck in a laboratory from morning to evening. This life did not excite me at all, and I wanted to be a happy family girl, just like my mother had made me up. So this is the first half of my journey, which had a break over here. And I went into a formal service, of course, because of my husband's colleagues were aghast in Delhi that, well, a messy first class girl in chemistry sitting idle at home with the sasuma whole day, what she is doing. So Delhi people were different from Calcutta. They had already had that inclination to make their girls work in somewhere or other. Even common people were having the clerical jobs of the for the graduate girls, and they were really doubting my degree that फर्स्ट क्लास होके घर पे बैठी है, ये क्या सचमुच इतना पढ़ी है, पढ़ी लिखी लगती नहीं. और and another thing about our upbringing, that's very important, which my mother used to instill in us: never brag about your all these qualities and your qualifications. People will shy away. I can't find enough qualified boys for you girls. You are studying. My next sister was already doing PhD when I got married. She was 3 years junior to me. So I had left study. I got into marriage, and she was in the botany PhD department. So that was one break where I must have a break here, probably, to start my journey in another domain. So how do you like my story? Yes, that's the biggest zoo in Asia that time. It has the Alipur Zoological Garden. It's next to the National Library in Alipur. Eh, Yes, yes. He was. He was. And we lived inside that zoo in a huge building, a bungalow, and I got married inside that zoo. That was the only marriage in Alipur Zoological Garden in the evening, when guests were specially permitted to walk to the in the side road and enter our compound. And everybody remembers how the tigers were howling when our mantras were being uttered. Well, at one stage of my life when I got married, the scene changed from Calcutta to Delhi. Of course, it has an interim in Bombay for a week or so, because my husband was leaving his job in Bombay and coming to Delhi in another job. He was a job shirker and going around, like engineers used to change their jobs very frequently. This is also a factor which influenced my life. And then he took another job, and so he will not get a leave for 1 year next, because it was in the government public sector in India. So he joined a new service and insisted that I should also do something. But then he joined. Then he left that job again, and I tried to go for a school job. Somebody pushed me into a chemistry teacher in a school, but I had a very bad experience about it. It will lengthen the story only. So I left it in 3 months. I felt that I'm not for school teaching, and because that time my Hindi was not good. That was one factor which I mastered later on, at least talking Hindi. But that time I was not a typical Bengali girl, and I found it hard to teach in the top classes with the Hindustani boys and girls. So that I left. So I never had a career in mind. So what had I was going. Of course, my mother was very keen that I should have a child as soon as possible, but there was some I don't know, the medical examinations were also had to be gone through, and there was nothing wrong with any of us, either of us, but there was some circumstance where I didn't never conceive. So this was another huge factor in my life. Then well, I was not that keen to have a child, but then it was natural to have child. So I was also a bit sad, but what to do, I was sitting at home. Then my husband changed another job in a private sector. So that was a consultant engineer's firm, and there he had a boss who was also a Bengali, and he like his senior in an earlier job. So he came home and saw me and talked to me, and he found it at us that I was sitting home. So he made a special position for me as a consultant technician, technologist, because of they have many chemistry studies to be done, like industrial application. So I was very happy to do that. That writing technical reports, doing this, they are filling up their technical forms in chemical engineering projects. So I had been through different projects in that time, and I used to make the market survey report and all that thing. So I was enjoying my job also. And they made a short schedule for my job. They did everything so that I can work. So it's a huge contribution from that their side, so that I could make myself professional person, which I was never, because my mother taught us not to demand anything in life. Be a good housewife, listen to your your parents and in-law, and whatever they want you have to do it. It was a very very strict condition that you will never leave your house and come back like I could not adjust, which happens so much now. And the amount of adjustment we had to make, that will make nowadays girls will shudder at that proposition which I had to go through. And that chapter I don't want to open at all. But it was a boon in disguise, because the day I could break out of that shackle after 7 years of my bondage to that family life, I had to come out in a way when my husband got transferred. Only then I could come out. I cannot leave the house like that. हम जा रहे हैं ऐसे घर छोड़ के कि ये पढ़ नहीं रहा नहीं. It cannot happen in that way. So I was waiting for an opportunity when my husband came back to Calcutta to take another job in ICI India. So that time, what happened? I was having that in that company. I was also working. So when he left, they said that we have our head office in Calcutta. So why don't you join there as a technologist? Because you are very much valuable to us for your own performance. So we can make a post in Calcutta also to accommodate you. But I was not really keen, because my mother was insisting you must have a family, you should not take up such jobs and all, because my mother was in Calcutta. So she was after me, no, you must not have this kind of attachment. Your pregnancy is getting delayed. But who knew that I will not be pregnant all my life? And that, in fact, was a blessing in disguise, ultimately, now I look at it. But that time I was really not a normal person to deal with. Like everybody, any married woman will ask, and on the third sentence, she will ask, how many children you have? You have got married 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. So what? So this question embarrassed me and made me sad and angry both. But then I had to go through several lots of medical examinations. Nothing worked. And at that time, when I came over to Calcutta with my husband, back to Calcutta, a huge thing happened, that my sister in botany department, she was already in her second year of PhD, doing PhD. So she asked me that after 7 years, would you be interested in joining some research project? Because my senior friends are asking about you, that they know that you are a brilliant girl in chemistry. So why don't you take up one project which they have in mind? So they were asking me just like that, which never happens nowadays. Those days were different. So they said, we are looking for a chemist girl, in fact. So I said, for what? They said, it is in Jadavpur University. They one group has found a plant which is showing anti-cancer properties. So they are now unable to handle it because the person who found that activity is a biophysicist. She is a physics girl with a biophysics background of PhD. So it is not up to her to make up that chemistry part. So we feel that there is a chemistry component which has to be looked after by a chemist only. So that's how she proposed that thing, and since then I have taken up that project just unknowingly that what I am going into, because it started with handling of mice models with that tumor in it, and we had to inject the plant extract to get the activity into that mouse. And I could see with my own eyes that the tumor, which was a fluid kind of tumor in the stomach of that small white mouse, that the swelling would reduce and reduce and ultimately become very less on the 20th or the 30th day, when the control mouse would have a belly full of fluid, about 7 8 grams, and it had only 1 or 2 grams the treatment. So it was so exciting for me, and I jumped into that thing, that, well, this is what I wanted to do, because I want to know what is existing in that plant. Because by that time I had that introduction in Ashima Chatterjee's class, professor, we called her master, that there are innumerable number of chemicals existing in plants, and which has to be analyzed and seen what is that activity for. But unfortunately, in Calcutta University or in Calcutta or in India, I would say, this culture of the chemists handling a biological study was not fashionable at all. And it was in fact looked down upon, that chemists are diverting into biology, and because they thought it to be a lower subject, which I can't understand why they thought it, because it didn't handle that serious chemistry. Of course, it needed, maybe, I don't know why they classify it like that. But I found chemistry and the plant science both as a science of life, which Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose, we know that how he had shown that plants also have life. So life and the chemistry of life is what interested me. That's how I came into life science. So I used to call myself that I am no longer only a chemist. I am a biologist after that, and I had to handle serious biology with the oncology. Then I found anti-parasitic activity and all sorts of biological activities I handled. And at the end, in the COVID time, I also wrote a review on antiviral activity of plants. So that is how came from the mouse to the virus and everything. But again, I was not a biologist, and I started as a chemist. But unfortunately, I was or I am a jack of all trades and master of none. So that is my life. And to tell that, frankly, to tell the truth, I had no dream at all. I had the dream that my parents have sent me to be a good housewife. I have a husband. I have to look at his welfare. That is my primary duty. And my husband's life also influenced me a lot, because he was not a stable person to stay in one place, not satisfied with one job. He jumped from Kolkata to Bombay, and 20 years plus, maybe 22 years, I have lived alone in this house in Calcutta, while he was the managing director and chairman of big company in Bombay, and I was traveling between the two cities with a big responsibility. And there also another small thing. My life is so long. I told you that this. Job which I have retired from and worked all through was a research scientist position called from University Grants Commission in Delhi. So I was attached to Jadavpur University because I was there and I wished it. I could have changed it over to Bombay also. There was this option available to me. Man, many people said that in Calcutta you don't have a proper laboratory. It's so backward in Calcutta, everything. Why don't you come over? So I had a lifelong association with Bhabha Atomic Research Center in Bombay, who had nurtured my project and had collaboration over there. So I used both the cities to balance. I really find now looking back, I can't understand how I could manage doing it. That I used my this position as well my husband's position, because he was my this position wanted me to succeed in research in whichever way. I had to give a good production of research. So I used international scenario when another big thing I won was the International Foundation for Science from Sweden awarded me a research project. This was another life changer for me. When I could win that research grant, it was for almost 10 years. I enjoyed this grant for three times, which was the maximum. And at the end of it, I got the award of Silver Jubilee award from them for networking activity, because I networked and I was sent as ambassador for that organization to represent India in from Africa to Australia to different meetings in Europe and India, everywhere wherever I went. So I had been to different countries with my project, and that influenced my life in traveling and without my husband. But my husband was in the background, and I had to see to it that his life also goes well in there with the support staff and all, because he was mostly in his official work and never was a home person. So I had nothing much to do at home, even if I was in Bombay. So I sacrificed that life, but again I had to visit every now and then. And then I used my collaborative work in Bombay so that I can bridge all this work in Calcutta and Bombay. And it was a huge balancing exercise, but which ultimately ended very well when I could have a student in Bombay as well as in Calcutta as well as international from USA to Africa. To I have many joint students who had worked in their own field with my own idea and project. So that's was one big satisfaction. I did my PhD with one particular plant, which is called Diospirus montana, and that has another huge story behind it. But in that thesis, I had first stated the anti-cancer and anti-parasitic activity of one compound which I isolated from that plant, that was called diospirine, which was known compound isolated by other phytochemists in other countries, even in India, but none of them had looked into the prospect of biology which this compound can show. So I had revealed worked at almost 40 to 45 papers, research papers on that one plant, and this compound has now advanced very well in other laboratories in our world, and shown very important activity which might place it into a pharmaceutical kind of or is compound. But that part of the work to bring it into the commercial field, that I could not complete, and that's the big regret in my life. And it was not, one life was not enough for that work, which I had tried to patent it internationally and all that. But that's a huge challenge, and ultimately not a big success in the, because I was a loner in a one woman army, people called me, and having a tale of two cities in Bombay and Calcutta, and balancing everything. I was not that brave enough to go abroad and settle and do this work, because when now this war in Israel reminds me that I had been in 1 month in Jerusalem in Hadassah University, and I had Jewish collaborators in Jerusalem, and I had experience of so many. And end of the life, I had the German laboratory also to work in, but I could not succeed in bringing it into the national focus, or internationally it was very much accepted, and they wanted me to go with that compound and work over there and all that, but I could not leave my husband behind, and it is because he had a small demand that I would be around to help him also in the social circuit, because I was the Mrs. Hazra who wanted, and there I forgot that I am a Dr. Hazra or somebody. I went there as a Mrs. Hazra to entertain his official, accomplices, and so even now I do it. I do is actually I like to cook for myself or my friends, and I cook and send it to my loved ones. And that is one thing I insist on doing. It is actually for the necessity to keep myself in good shape. People wonder, why don't you keep in Calcutta? It's very usual to keep a cook for the cooking. So I keep help for my preparation of the base work. They cut it and they prepare the masala. They do everything, but the composition, the chemical reaction which happens in the kadai, which is my hobby, because with the smallest amount of oil, cooking can be excellent with the more time and patience and more ideas. So I have my own compositions which I make, and that's when people enjoy it, they love it, and that's my big satisfaction, which I is my hobby, you can say. Not that I'm a great cook in the classical sense, because I can't do all the preparations in that way, but I have my enjoyment in that way. And I, of course, I like reading, and I have a piano also in my home. To I got it as a gift, and so somebody was throwing it away. So my husband said, "Okay, okay, let her play." And but well, I can't give enough time, though they won't leave me like that, and I keep on carrying on whatever way can put my fingers on. That's how and I have a big, huge hobby of gossiping, like talking. You can find that I am a very talkative person. So whoever is my friend is very close to me, and I enjoy a huge friend circle in every country. Uh, Living with them in England and Germany and all that had made me enriched me in many ways. That how to, and in even in Kuala Lumpur, I was 1 month as a paying guest in a family. So all these things with this East and West, I have a very versatile personality which I can adjust with many people. That's why I enjoy. Well, the first thing which I did, that was that I jumped into. I was like the foolish one who jumps into something where angels trade to fear, fear to trade, sorry. So the fools will jump where angels fear to trade. That's a saying goes. So I was that when I started. I never knew what field of biology I'm jumping into by starting an oncological project, and then I did it. That was, but then again, that also became a positive in my life afterwards. And then the last mantra which I myself put into is that what I said earlier also, that I am a jack of all trades and master of none. But this is actually, I found out now in Google, that this statement is actually a complimentary one, and it was written by none other than William Shakespeare, who had written it is the half part of his statement which people remember, which I also knew that much only because I've never read Shakespeare thoroughly. So it is that, but there is a but oftentimes it is better to be like that than specialist in one. Jack of all trades is preferred. That is one mantra which, in fact, is very much. doable in current situation, when the employers also would, I understand that they would also prefer a versatile personality with the adaptability in different conditions, so that they can find their true calling to go into different fields. So this is a conflict when, as a scientist, I was supposed to be a master of one topic, who won't bother about the side business of other subjects. But I always was interested in looking into different aspects of one compound which I was dealing with. So I went from one end to the other to go into, in fact, in London School of Hygiene, to here in Jerusalem parasitology lab, to USA, to everywhere I went with that search for other kind of activity which this one particular compound can have. So this is one mantra, that being jack of all trades and master of none might be useful for people. If they find a calling like that, they should not be afraid to do that. So that's what the message for the young generation from us. We are at least 2 3 generations ahead. It's a bit difficult because you see, we had been in sync with our grandmothers, I think, if not the great, uh, as a scientist. As as a career woman, that is one, actually, that is, nowadays girls are really career oriented, and they are not like us. We were brought up like that. But now the girls who prefer doing a career, all my PhDs, I used to deal with empowerment PhD students. So doing PhD in hardcore scientific subject requires a lot of sacrifice that the girls must remember, which I also counsel many students like that, who come with an aspiration to become a scientist, hardcore scientist, but they have their aspirations as a woman, which is not bad. That is a good thing, that they want to be a housewife, they want to have a child, they want to have a family, they want to have do many other things, and additionally a career of scientist. This is difficult. I must say that this will require a very high sacrifice. They have to remember, unless they have a mother or somebody standing beside her to take care of her worries. But even then, it is very difficult to do bench work science. So I advise girls to be very aware of this, take calling on their own, or take their own calling, that how much they want what. If they want a hardcore scientist life, they must be prepared to leave their home side a little. They can't give priority to their home business. There they will be judged beside a man who also have family. But this is the question of the girls who want to stand in the at own par with the men. It doesn't happen, actually. It doesn't happen. It to have whoever has achieved this, I know huge number of ladies. I envy them that how they could do. But even in Jerusalem, where I worked with, one lady had 6 children. So I asked her how could she do it. But there she had a prompt answer, and I could see that it is that they have a very good social system. The moment she enters the hospital in the lab, she puts her worry in that beautiful and efficient creche and the child care center, where they keep the babies, and they go in, and they have no worry in the world for their child to live. So this system is not available in our country, to tell the truth. In fact, in Calcutta, my most brilliant students had to give up their hardcore science after doing very good PhD with all sorts of accomplishments. And it makes me so sad. You have given me many choices. In that, I like best is the effervescence. It's a chemistry word. um, we have to judge which one will compound will be effervescent. It's a very critical property of a matter, which is difficult to define. One has to define it properly to get the full marks. So effervescent is that thing which I will find myself. Thank you for that. I had been through all these opportunities, but never tried to do that. That's true. I had that all that opportunities, but I'm not a sporty type because I was very scared from the childhood because I had a weak leg muscle. Maybe I was rickety in the childhood, so my mother used to say that, and I put up weight later on. And I'm not a good runner, and I used to shy away from the formal games. So I know my strength that I will not be able to take it. This diffidence in me defies me. That I want to. Going to places is I like very much if I have a good companion to go with. But my husband, he doesn't make a good pair because he has a different kind of angle with life, and I am a bit other in other mood. So we often what we do, we have two couples at least to go about, and then they have their own world, and I can adjust with any other lady, and I find it nice. So going around places is very good unless it's a very nowadays my health is also troubling me, and since we are only two to look after each other, people have children to whatever help they get from them. I heard them coming away from long distance to care for their parent. So I have to keep in mind that ultimately I have to be one for the other, and I must keep well. That is one mantra I have for myself. So I, even if I want to do long study, I want to write books. That's true. That's my real strength. I am a very good proofreader, and I have very good grasp on language also. But though I have not studied language formally, but then because of the eyes and all on the computer, I'm a bit. I would like to write, which I'm playing with the idea, is that there are many plants, many plants, which are used in some way but abused in some other way. Then they have the medical property in them, and I want to tell that story in a very mundane way to for the general people, so that they become aware that what is nature and how nature this the present situation is very much important to have this knowledge, that we are so much dependent on nature. So in my own way I like to, because as I said, I am a jack of all trades. I never had deep knowledge about any of these domains, but I can tell story about, and then I have written small pieces in different magazines, and I found them to be appreciated. So I will take up, collect some and write about that. I hope to do that.